another poo? Hey? Better change you before we do this video, I think. Hey? Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's Ruth here. I hope you're doing really well. So I am currently joined by 2-week-old Flora, who's just feeding here. Flora is my third baby and the third baby that I have breastfed. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you my top tips for breastfeeding. My first tip would be, whilst you are pregnant, to do as much research about breastfeeding as you can. Read a book, go to a support group, anything that will just give you initial information about breastfeeding, the benefits of it, how it kind of works, and kind of a few initial tips. I attended an NCT session, which was like a full session about pregnancy and birth, but we had a whole day about breastfeeding. What I find with breastfeeding is it's a little bit like learning to drive. So when you learn to drive, you kind of learn the basic things, and then you do a test and you get tested kind of on the things you've learnt. But when you then actually go out onto the road on your own, that's kind of when you really learn how to drive. And it's the same with breastfeeding. So I feel like you learn some initial things from books and groups, but you don't really learn about breastfeeding until you're on the actual journey. Everyone will have a different experience with breastfeeding. Some women are very, very lucky, and as soon as they latch their baby on, that's it, and they have a really straightforward journey. But every baby is different, and every breastfeeding journey is very, very different. Some are easy and some are hard. My first baby was very easy. My last two have been more difficult. We're 2 weeks in at the moment, and I'm still finding some challenges and struggles and pain and troubles with latching and all sorts. So my second tip really is to just relax. Relax and give yourself a break. Do not put any pressure on yourself when you start feeding. One of the main things to remember is after you've given birth, it takes about 4 days for your milk to come in, sometimes longer. So in the first initial days, you've just got that colostrum, which kind of helps to clear baby out, gets you into a routine of feeding and prepares your body for your milk to come in. So I always think that these first few days, these first 4 or 5 days, are a really good time to kind of spend time with your baby and try and figure things out with the breastfeeding, because at that time it's just colostrum and they're not really feeding that very much, and it just gives you that time to kind of get used to things, try things out, try and fix any problems that you might be having. So just use those 4 or 5 days. Don't put pressure on yourself. Don't be panicking that there's no milk. Don't be panicking about how much baby is getting. Just use that time to bond with baby and to try and figure out the feeding. One of the main issues that women might find with breastfeeding is the latch. The latch is the most important part of feeding. If you don't get the latch right, that's when you're going to have problems. And I'll be honest with you, I'm having trouble with the latch with this third baby. When I went for my midwife check, they discovered that she had a very, very slight tongue tie. So actually when you have your baby, and if you are having trouble with latch, that is one of the things to kind of check. Get your midwife to check, or a health visitor. Ask somebody, if you're having problems with the latch, can they just check to see if there is any tongue tie? Sometimes it can be a very severe tongue tie, which can cause real severe problems for the mother, for the nipples, for pain, for feeding. It can just make it a really horrible journey for you, for the mother. So really do get that checked. So one of my tips, and one of the things that I am trying at the moment, is different positions with breastfeeding. There are lots of different positions that you can try. This kind of standard position that I'm doing right now isn't the most comfortable for everybody. There are other positions which can make life a lot easier when you're trying to practice and perfect that latch, because you kind of need to support their head, tip their head back a little bit so that their nose is kind of up away from the nipple, and then when they kind of open their mouth, you can pop it in. So try different positions. One position they might not be able to latch very well in, but in another position, and I do find that the rugby position is a much easier position to get that really wide open mouth so that you can pop your nipple in. You need to try and get a lot of the nipple in, so not just that nipple part itself. You need to get more of the breast into their mouth. It needs to go right to the back, and you will feel if this is not right, because it will hurt. They will clamp down on the front of your nipple and it is so sore. If that does happen, what I suggest is get a clean finger and try and just pop it into the side of their mouth and try and ease them away from the nipple. Don't just try and pull them off because that will really hurt, but just try and ease them off. Don't worry about taking them off and trying to latch them back on again. It's better for you to keep taking them off rather than cause yourself pain and persevering through the pain. Just take them off and try and do that wider, more open mouth latch again. This really isn't always easy to do. So one of my other tips would be to look for support groups, Facebook groups, anywhere that you can get breastfeeding support. This is really important. Don't feel like you have to do this all alone, because it is such a journey and it can be such a struggle, and it can make you feel really down sometimes if you're not getting it right. So find those support groups. With COVID, it has been a little bit difficult with actually being able to attend things face to face, but I feel like things are starting to move forward now, and some of these groups might start to open back up again. But join as many Facebook groups as you can. People are really supportive and lovely on a lot of these groups. You can post pictures, videos. If you go to support groups, you can ask any kind of question. You can get the person who runs the group to check the latch for you. You can get some tips from other people. You can find out what you're doing right, what might not be working for you. Just go and get that support, and it might make all the difference to how you're feeding and to how you're feeling as well. And it also really helps to know that you're not the only one struggling. There are other women struggling too, and you can support each other and push through. You know, sometimes it can take a good few weeks for things to kind of settle or for you to get the hang of things. So it is about being relaxed and patient. Give yourself the time to get that right. You might be feeling like you want to give up on day 5, but trust me when I say it can take a few weeks. I mean, I'm going into week 3 now, and it still kind of hurts at times, and I can see where she's kind of cut one of my nipples by clamping wrong. But just give yourself a break and just take the time to perfect it and correct it, and you will get there. Another tip I would say is don't worry about the timing or the length of feeds. I know that in the beginning, sometimes a lot of midwives will say, how long are you feeding? How long are they on each breast? To be honest, I don't clock watch. I did with my first baby, and it really just didn't help me at all. The main thing for me is that baby is gaining weight. And even with this slight tongue tie that my baby has, we've gone from 6 pound 2 to 7 pound 1 within a week of her being weighed. And that reassures me that she is getting the amount of milk that she needs. There really is no way for us to know if they're getting enough, apart from if they're weighing a good weight, if they're gaining, and also check their nappies. So if they're weeing regularly and doing lots and lots of poos, then you know that you're giving your baby enough milk. If you do have concerns that baby's nappy is dry, there isn't any wheeze, they're not pooing, then definitely go and seek some help. Contact your midwife and say that you need some help with breastfeeding because you don't think your baby is having regular wheeze and poos. But that really is a sign. I know that this latch has been awful for 2 weeks. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it hurts, sometimes it doesn't. But she does huge wheeze and she's pooing round the clock. So I know she is getting plenty of milk. My next tip would be to make sure that you are comfortable. So first of all, look for the signs that baby's starting to get hungry. Never kind of leave it until the point in which they are crying. You'll start to notice signs where they start to kind of put their hands to their mouth like this, or they're turning like this with their mouth. So look for those signs, first of all, where they are calm and not really ravenous, and that will give you time to get into a good, comfortable position. I recommend using a breastfeeding cushion. This will give you extra support, and make sure you've got cushions behind your back as well, especially in the beginning when you're kind of getting used to everything and establishing breastfeeding. Make sure your back is nice and straight, otherwise you'll get a bad back. Sometimes you can be sat there for an hour feeding, so it's really important to make sure you're comfortable. Make sure you've got things around you that you might need because you won't be getting up for a little while. You know, if you want your phone nearby or a good TV series on, things that are going to help you relax, maybe a snack, some water. Make sure you've got everything around you, and then when you're nice and calm and ready and comfortable, then pick up baby. And if you're calm, you'll then be able to try a position, or you'll be more relaxed when you're trying to get that latch. If you're kind of tense and frustrated and you're holding baby's head firmly and you're trying to get the nipple in, the baby will sense that and they will try and resist more and pull away. So really do try and get as comfortable and relaxed as you possibly can. My next tip is to really look after your breasts. So self-care for the breasts is really important. I recommend a good nipple cream. The Lanzano nipple cream is really good. It's one that you can pop on and baby can still feed with it on your nipples, so it's safe for baby to go in their mouth. This is really great for cracked nipples. I would just start applying it from day one, just in case, and to kind of help prevent any sore nipples. When your milk comes in, your breast can feel really full and engorged. There are things that you can buy. I'm showing you these Lanzano heated breast packs, which you can put in the microwave, and then the heat really helps the breast for the milk to come down and to not feel so engorged and to not feel like you're absolutely bursting at the seams. I've also got these nipple shields. They're silver nipple shields, and silver is apparently very healing, and I found these on Amazon, and I found lots of women recommending them, and I thought I would give them a go, and I will be honest, they did really help my nipples. Within 2 days of wearing them, my nipples were definitely less sore and less cracked. Make sure you've got things like a good comfortable nursing bra, things that you're going to feel comfortable in when you're feeding, breast pads for kind of any leaking milk. And when you do things like have a nice warm bath or a nice warm shower, just give your breasts a little bit of a massage in the warm water, which is what I always do, and that does tend to help as well and kind of reduce any kind of blocked ducts or anything like that. Another tip is to make sure you do wind your baby properly. So give them a good feed on one breast, and then you might find that they start to get a bit sleepy and you might think, oh, they're done. But if you put them up on your shoulder, or whatever you find easiest to burp your baby, give them a good burp, give them the chance to burp, be sick, wake up, and then offer them the other breast, and you might find that they will actually have some more. And this might help you as well when sometimes women feel like they're constantly breastfeeding their baby. They say, you know, I took them off my breast and they wanted feeding again and they've just been on me all day. Sometimes it is just a really simple case of giving them a really good wind and then making sure that they can feel then if they're still hungry, and then you can pop them back on the other breast and fill them up even more, and then you'll find that they'll go kind of longer periods in between each feed. This does really help. So these really are my top tips for breastfeeding. The main thing is to relax and to give yourself time. Don't put pressure on yourself. It really isn't an easy journey. It can be for some women, but for most it can be really difficult. So don't feel like it's just you that is struggling. It's not just you. There are so many women out there, and I am struggling a little bit at the moment with kind of sore nipples, and sometimes you dread every feed because you know as soon as they latch on with their mouth it's going to really hurt. But I am just trying to kind of remain calm and positive, look after my breasts, look after my nipples as much as I can, make sure I'm taking her off and trying to perfect that latch, because I know it will make all the difference. And as soon as I get that nipple back far enough in her mouth, it won't hurt. So my main focus really is just to look after my nipples, make sure that I'm trying to heal them whilst feeding her at the same time. And also just not being afraid to speak out and to speak to people. And, you know, I've had health visitors and midwives here, and I've told them the problems that I am having. I've told them that I'm confident to keep pushing forward and trying, because it's my third baby. I know I can push through and kind of I can see the other side. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I know it will all work out. But there are probably some issues that you'll face. Like I say, it is like when you learn to drive and when you're out driving on your own. They're two totally different things. You can learn about breastfeeding, but until you do it, you don't know what problems you're going to face. You might not face anything, but you might face something. With my first baby, I had extremely kind of explosive boobs. I didn't know anything about having too much milk. I knew that you could have trouble having any milk, but I had too much milk, and it was constantly spraying out, spraying my baby's face, choking him, and they never ever seemed to settle down. They just never did. And he would cry and wrestle with me, and I used to find it really difficult to feed out in public when I was out and about because my milk would just be spraying everywhere, and I just found it a nightmare, and I was very tense and very uncomfortable. And I did give up breastfeeding after about 4 or 5 months because I just couldn't handle the spray anymore. But having now gone on to breastfeed my second baby, I know that there is support out there, and if you just speak to more people, speak to breastfeeding experts and groups, there are so many tips and things that you can try that just make life easier when you're feeding. So really do seek the support that you need. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found my breastfeeding tips useful. If you did, make sure you give this video a thumbs up or a like, and do consider subscribing to my channel. I would love to see you on my next video. Take care everybody, I'll see you soon, bye bye.